Hi, how are you? I want to talk about shadow today. Those of you who've been around in my space for a while know that I have shifted my lens from focusing on relationship to focusing more and more on this practice of sacred self trust, which is foundational to your relationship. It's a refinement of the work that I've been doing. So if you're here in my Facebook space, live, please post in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions that you might have. If you're here on replay, hashtag replay, we're going to be talking about shadow hunting and how to hunt for shadows in your own life and why it is that it matters. For those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Jenny. And that's it. I'm a shadow huntress. I'm a mentor and a facilitator of sacred space for women. And I have some new things hatching in the next several months. And so for those of you who've worked with me at a distance, so you've maybe done my relationship mentoring program with me, or you've done the DIY version, the self-study course, I'm going to have some opportunities for you to step into circle with me a little bit more closely. Hi, Chantel. Nice to see you here, because I feel like it's really important right now. And those of you who filled out my survey, you said loud and clear, you want real relationships with women. You want to really be connected to women. And I know the women who work with me in some of my group programs, small group programs, we meet and they break out into dyads or triads. Hi, Jen. Nice to see you here. And those women they just eat up having that time to be with another grown-ass woman, another mature woman who is interested not in blaming the world, their partner, their kid, whatever it might be, but really interested in shifting that lens back to themselves. So I'm going to have some invitations for those of you who are familiar with my work, have done some of my programming in the past, and want to step in at a level that I think is really going to work with you, because I want to have the opportunity to facilitate more sacred space with larger crowds. So I'm very excited. Crowds, groups, covens, gaggles, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so let's talk about shadow. And I wanted to give you an example of something that I encountered today that has been happening a lot lately. I sort of joke with my husband, I'm sort of a hermit. My 20-year-old son is staying with us for the summer and he has a job, so he's gone most of the day. And I said, yeah, I'm sort of a recluse. He's like, yeah, you're totally a recluse, Mom. And I am. I live in a village of 1,700 people. I leave the compound like once a week to go to Tucson to see my chiropractor. And when I do, I interface with the world. And it's a great opportunity to see my shadow, right? Because here, when I'm by myself at home with my dog sitting here, right? Like there's not a lot to activate, to irritate me. Can you hear Jane? Jane's groaning right now, right on cue. There's just not a lot because I control my world around me, right? But when I go out into the big, big world, I see other people and I encounter other people and how they choose to live or drive or what they say or what they wear or whatever the thing is, right? Because I'm human just like you. And I get to notice what comes up in me, right? That's your shadow. That's my shadow. We all have it. The parts that are like judgmental, the parts that are impatient. And I want to dial this in, okay? So we're taking a family trip with my in-laws in several weeks. And I have been the default coordinator. So I've been coordinating things. And as I'm coordinating, people are coming to me with their stuff, right? Like that this doesn't work, or these people have more money to invest in the lodging and these people don't, whatever. You all get it, right? This is like sandwich generation stuff. And one of the things is I was just driving by myself. I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is so annoying. Why is she complaining? Why can't you just be happy, right? And I catch my face in the rearview mirror as I'm kvetching about why she, this family member, can't just be happy and joyful that we're taking a beach vacation together as a family for the first time in 5 or 6 years. And I'm looking at my own face. That's my shadow. Like, hello, why can't I be happy? Like, who cares what she says, right? But I care clearly because I'm the one who has this emotional charge that she should do it a different way, right? Are you all following me here? Right? Do you know what this is like? And as soon as I believe that she should do it a different way, really what that is she should do it my way. She should do it my way. But here's the funny thing. I'm not even doing it my way because I'm not like, sweet, she's coming. Isn't that amazing? Period. End of story. Right? I have my internal kvetch. So that's shadow hunting, is really paying attention to how it is that you're showing up in the world and how it is that you're being activated by what's going on around you. And why it is that your relationship, your primary relationship, whether that's with an adult child, a small child, your partner, your lover, your ex-spouse, a parent, whoever it is, the reason why that is an opportunity for your spiritual growth. And if you're here in my large Facebook group, I'm going to be talking about spirituality a lot because that's where it's at. That's why I believe we're here, is to grow spiritually, which means integration, right? Integrating fully who it is that you are. Most of us walk around and are like, I'm all for peace and harmony and love. And then we're driving down the road. Like, why can't she just be happy? Right? This isn't about spiritual bypass. That's not the answer. A spiritual bypass is like stuffing it down. Let's just stuff down that feeling. But rather, what the women who work with me privately and in my salons, what we do is we notice, oh my gosh, this is coming up for me. Let's look at that. So we pull it out and without judgment, like look at, and if I look at my scritchiness with my family member, it's that I have not had good boundaries. I've taken on this family planning thing because I'm like, I want to get it done. If I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. But it's really about my need for control and to make sure I want to stay in a place that I want to stay in. Like, that's the truth. So I've taken the whole thing on because I want to coordinate it, because I want it to be how I want it to be, because it's my vacation. And if I'm not willing to look at that, then I will take it on, be resentful, be annoyed that the other person's complaining, right? And stay in this unconscious old paradigm that most of us are fighting externally, right? Most of you in this space don't want war. You want peace. Like, we want that, right? We don't want there to be any more strife. We are so freaking tired of anxiety and fear and this side against that side. We're just done with it. And if we're done with it outside of us, we have to get done with it in here. We have to get done with it in here. And inside is the place, like for me, where I have to get really sober. And we were talking about this in one of my salons yesterday, sober to my own addiction to suffering, my addiction to my own suffering, which means I must sleep coordinating this family thing and feeling annoyed about it, but then have this face of like, no, it's fine. And people are like, oh, Jenny, you're so good. You just take care of it, whatever, right? And the addiction to suffering, I hope you're following this here, and I do believe some of you can relate. It's that dropping into that unconsciously, right? And to my credit, I have been talking about this with my husband. So he knows. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm watching myself do this thing. He's like, yeah, you are. Isn't that interesting? So-and-so said they'd pick up that piece. Why don't you let him do that? So I've been consciously watching myself do this kind of old practice and unhooking pieces along the way, right? That's what it's about. None of us, I don't believe, get to a place where it's like, and I'm done, right? That's called death or ascension, I think. And maybe they're the same thing, I don't know. But I think my path and those women who choose to step in to work with me, it's about really being awake and aware of how it is that I'm engaging in the world, right? And noticing how it is that I want somebody else to do something that I'm not doing. right? I want that person to be more joyful. I'm not being joyful. I was being kind of a horse's rear in my own car by myself in the rearview mirror, right? And I caught it. And then I get to work with that without shaming myself, right? Like there's no point in shaming yourself or being hard on yourself. That's not helpful, but rather recognizing it. So putting the light on you so that you can engage in something that's going to be new. Because until you're willing to do it, this is my belief, maybe not your truth, until you're willing to do that, really look at untangling yourself from your old practices of suffering, which means internally doing the right or wrong thing. Until you're willing to do that, it's never going to happen externally. It's just not. It can't, because our world, your life, is an expression of what's happening in here. So what's so awesome is that your world, it's like showing you what it is that you have been practicing the last 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 years, 2 decades. That's what your life is showing back up to you. Like this situation with my in-laws. It was showing back up to me how it is that I have shown up in the 25 years I've been part of this family, how I show up in that, which is like controlling, taking care of it, and that gives me really valuable information if I want to pay attention to it. The question is, do you? Because if you do, then you're on the path of creating a new timeline. And that's the other thing that you're going to hear me talking about a lot in here, spirituality and shifting timelines. Because right now you're in the timeline that has created your life out as it is. And how you shift it, which is what I'm doing with my in-laws and my story, like they may or may not change, doesn't matter. And I love them. They're so fun and we're going to have a really good time together. But it doesn't really matter if they change. What matters is that I do the shift. I shift me, and then I get to have the kind of life that I want, the kind of vacation experience that I want, independent of how they show up, right? So I hope that this has been of service to you. Again, if you're here on replay, #replay, feel free to share with me any questions, insights. Let me know if anything that I shared resonated for you. Are you someone who tends to take it over and do the control thing so that you don't have to leave it up to chance? Do you kind of let your anxiety run the show? I definitely tend to run more anxious than depressed. Some people tend to like pull away and disappear, and I tend to overfunction. That's been my old timeline. So that's been a practice of like unhooking myself, which just means shining that light and noticing. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that thing that I do, right? And finally, I'll say this, that what we're going to be talking about in here in some depth is how it is that who it is that you are is like a thumbprint in your heart and soul. And the best thing that you can do is to get to know your own truth, this sacred sense of who you are, your native self, your essence, and be a full expression of that. Because I believe that we need more of you in this world. We don't need less of you. We don't need you to edit yourself. Jessica, hi Jessica, says, yes, overfunction over here. Well, honey, you have a lot to overfunction around. And those of you who have lots of children and extended family, and you run businesses and you coach soccer teams and you do all the things, right? It's really easy because we set up our life to overfunction. Jessica says, but I love that we get to choose how we show up regardless. Absolutely. Chantal says, how timely for me today. Thank you, Jenny. You are so welcome. Yeah, we do get to show, we get to decide. You get to use your superpower of choice. And so there's a difference, I think, between over-functioning because it's like you're trying to control a situation and knowing like my skill set is such that I'm a really good person to plan a family vacation because I think of it and I do it really fast and it's like no big deal, right? And that's not the case for other people. And unless they want to learn that skill, it just makes sense for me to do it because I can do it intuitively. So if I do it with ease and joy and delight, then there's nothing wrong with that. But if I do it with that scritchy anxiety energy, and then I'm resentful about it, that's where it is that shadow is lurking, right? And so being willing to be brave enough to be self-reflective and pay attention. So I invite you to share any of your takeaways here and start being curious. Be willing to shine that light on your shadow, on yourself. I do have 2 spots open in private mentoring with me. Those are 3-month experiences with me, totally private, without any training modules usually, unless there's something that I feel like you need that I will gift to you. But usually it's you and me, baby, and we're just walking the walk together. And I will have some really exciting new opportunities for those of you who've been kind of on the fringes, or maybe you've done the self-study course and you want to step in and create community. So look for that, and that will be beginning in August. So thank you so much for being here. So great to see you. And please feel free to invite any of your friends who might be of a spiritual ilk, who might be interested in shadow work, archetype work, because this space is shifting from my original perspective of just focusing on relationships. So again, thank you for being here. Have a beautiful rest of your day. I will see you next week.